Hello everyone and welcome back to our course. In this lecture, we're going to build our model again, but this time, instead of using daily data, we're going to use a frequency of monthly. We could do anything here. We could do weekly, yearly, daily, monthly, however different increment we wanted. So let's make a new code cell in our Colab. I'm going to create a model again. This time I'm going to use my profit class, and the interval width can still be the same, but let's call this our monthly model. Okay, so we called profit before here. We had to pass in an interval width, and then we passed daily seasonality to be true. This time we're not going to pass in daily seasonality. Okay, but the interval width can still be the same, 0.9. All right, so let me just go back to our last code cell, and I'm going to pass in here my interval width argument. It's going to be the constant that I declared. That is going to be my monthly model. Then I'm going to take my monthly model and I'm going to fit it through my data frame. That's the initial data frame that we had of our Bitcoin prices. All right, and that is going to train the model. Once it's trained, we can then use it to make a prediction. So first we have to set up our future data frame. For example, we did this previously. Here you can see we called make future data frame. We're going to do the same thing, but this time we're going to use a frequency of not D for day, but M for month. So let's go back to our last code cell and let's create that future data frame. I'll call this our future monthly data frame. I'm going to use our monthly model, and I'm going to use the function make future data frame for that model. I'm going to pass in a number of periods. Previously, let's see, we had a number of periods be 100. This time, because we're no longer working with days, but months, I'm going to choose a smaller number of periods. So let me just make here. I'm going to come back down to my last code cell, and I'm just going to override that value of number of periods. I'm going to change it to 5. All right, and then I'm going to pass that constant as my periods argument. Then I'm also going to set the frequency argument to the string M, which stands for monthly. All right, the result of this is our future monthly data frame, which I can paste out and show you our results. So we're going to run that code cell and get our results here. All right, so we're going from January 1st, 2016, and all the way to August 31st, 2021. You can see here we start off with going daily data because that's our actual data set. But remember, our data set went up to March 2nd, 2021. So for the data after March 2nd, that was generated by our function make future data frame. Therefore, those values at the end you can see here are actually the last day of the month instead of every day of the month. So that is because we put into use that monthly frequency. Now let's make a prediction again. So I'm going to make another code cell. I'm going to call my monthly model and use the function predict. I'm going to pass in here my future monthly data frame as the argument that I want to use. So I need to predict prices on the future months this time instead of the future days. The result I can store in a variable called my monthly predictions. All right, and just like that, we can then get the results of our monthly predictions. I'm going to run that code cell and then we'll get our results. So again, we get all these columns of information. We can see at the end here, we have monthly dates instead of daily dates. All right, we get the y-hat values at the end. And similar to how we saved the 100 days prediction with that iLock function here, we can also, now we can take our month results and store those. Okay, so 100 days is what we used previously. So if we want to convert that to months, that's going to be about let's see, 3.5 months. So it would be best to use values that can be divided evenly. Like for example, 120, that would be approximately 4 months because there are 30 days per month. So if we're using 100 days here, that's approximately 3 months. So I would change my 5 to 3 just to account for that. But here, we stored our last day's prediction in y hat, and so we want to do the same for our value of our months. I'm going to store the last date that we had. I'm just going to change it from 5 to 3 as the number of periods. I do have to rerun the code cell then, just because 100 days is more close to 3 months than 5 months. And if I want to compare the last values that I get, I want them to be close. It'd be best if they were perfectly the last day exactly the same, but you can optimize that later. All right, so I've rerun my code cells now, and I'm going to save my prediction 3 month. To do that, I grab my prediction, specifically my monthly prediction variable, and at the column y hat, I'm going to use the I lock here to get at -1. So that's just going to give me the last row value. And I can paste that out and you can see the value that we have for prediction 3 month. Let's see, monthly prediction, I believe that's, yeah, plural. Just make sure you have monthly predictions to be plural here. And then we can run that code cell. Okay, and here's the results that we get after 3 months. And you can see it's slightly different from the prediction that we got after our 100 days. And again, we can make those exactly equal just by adding 30 plus 31 plus 30. So you could then use 91 days instead of 100 if you wanted to make sure that days were exactly the same ending point. All right, next up, we can also visualize our results. So we can do all the same that we did earlier. For example, where we had visualizing cross-validation metrics, all of our error metrics, we can do that again. We can also then be able to compare which of our 2 strategies had the higher error. We can also plot our results. So let's do that. That's quite fun. Let's plot out the model's results. So for that, I'm going to grab my monthly model and I'm going to use the function plot. So what am I plotting here? Well, I am plotting my prediction 3 month, or let's see, that's going to be the last day. I'm actually going to use my monthly predictions, yes, because if I use prediction 3 month, I'd only have 1 data point. I want to use monthly predictions because that contains all of my data points. And then we can pass uncertainty to equal true because it is a model's prediction, which means it's not 100% accurate. Then we'll call pyplot.show to ensure that the plot appears. And great, look at this. So now we get, again, our data points as well as our blue line of our model's predictions. And we also get the upper and lower with that blue background. And in this way, we can compare the actual values of the crypto stock versus the model's prediction. All right, there's a lot more that we could do. For example, we could use yearly or weekly data as well to predict the price of the coin. So join me coming up. We're going to finish up our project by looking at one more way that we can get our predictions, and that's going to be with weekly intervals. And then we can compare as well at the very end. We can compare the final price of our crypto with all 3 methods. So join me in the next lecture where we will work on that.